everyone, it's me, Krista. Welcome back to my channel if you've been here before. If not, welcome for the very first time to my little art corner here on YouTube. Today is my 4th day working on an Inktober project. The prompt for today is freeze. This project is larger than the ones I've done previously. Those were all 4x6. This one is about 8x10. I am also using some blue watercolor on this watercolor paper to add a color tone to the entire piece. I also actually taped down the paper. Y'all should be so very proud. For today's prompt of freeze, my brain immediately went to Mr. Freeze from Batman. In case you don't know, I collect Batman comic books. I love them. Batman/Bruce Wayne was my first crush. I used to watch the 90s cartoon all the time, and when I was even younger, I used to watch the Adam West Batman on TV with my parents and my grandmother. So originally I thought of Mr. Freeze, and I started thinking about his story more, and I decided I wanted my inspiration point to be his wife, Nora Freeze. In my mind, there's always been such a soft, feminine beauty and grace to Nora, even though she's cryogenically frozen. I also kind of weirdly enjoy the metaphor of this idealization of a loved one who's passed away. At least that's what I think of when I think of Mr. Freeze and Nora Freeze. Mr. Freeze is also one of the more sympathetic villains that I think has ever been written, honestly, because even though he does these bad things, as a reader or a watcher, you understand why, because he's doing it to save a loved one. And that creates a lot of gray area morality-wise. The final product looks a lot less like Nora Freeze, a little bit like Mr. Freeze, and a little bit like Dr. Manhattan from Watchmen. She definitely looks a lot stronger, and it's a little bit more horror-ish. It definitely evolved as I was going, which, hey man, that happens during the creative process. I'm still fairly happy with the results. Now let's get back into the actual discussion of what I am doing for this drawing. At this point, I have already laid down the blue watercolor as my base. I helped it to dry with the help of a handy-dandy hairdryer. Moved that along a little bit more quickly than it would have otherwise. And now I am using my cheap Bic mechanical pencil to get a sketch down. This is just to help me figure out exactly where stuff's going to be placed. I say exactly, but I mean approximately. I move stuff around a lot while I'm creating. It's just a thing I do. Doesn't work for everybody. It's just part of my individual process, and everyone has their own. You have to kind of decide what works for you. For reference photos, I looked at quite a few different things. I looked at photos of women swimming in water with their hair flowing behind them. I used a photo of myself, also with my head back slightly looking up. I also looked at some photo references of Nora Freeze, both from comic books and also from the Batman and Robin movie, which in my opinion is still the worst of the Batman movies. Not that you care. After I have the basic sketchy lines down, I start going in with some liquid black ink and my water brush and using varying levels of water to get slightly different shades of ink wash. I've noticed a pattern in a lot of pieces that I've been creating very recently where for some reason I feel this need to cut off the arms at a very specific point. I don't know if I'm subconsciously going for a Venus de Milo thing, if I'm being lazy, or I just like how it looks. I don't know. It's just been a theme I've been noticing crop up here and there. I am currently using the water brush with that liquid ink with some more water to redefine some of those lines, strengthen them up a little bit, and adding a little bit more water to pull the color from the ink I laid down away slightly to create a little bit of shading, some soft shading. I do want to point out again that the blue watercolor underneath is dry and has been dry before I laid down any of the pencil sketch and then before I laid down the ink. At this point, I did not want the ink and the blue watercolor to marry at all. I wanted to use some glazing techniques. Also, if you're planning on doing a project using similar techniques or ideas, if you're going to use a watercolor as a base wash, you want to make sure it's one that is not going to pull up as soon as you add water. A good way to figure this out is to test it on some watercolor paper, play around, and see how it reacts. Mind you, I am not a watercolor expert, nor am I an art expert by any means. These are just techniques and processes that I found that work with the way I like to create stuff. Originally, I was going to have the character's eyes be closed. I decided against that for some reason. I just had that moment of being like, hey, wait, it'd be cool and creepy if she had glowing white eyes. So I used a white acrylic marker and decided to go that way. I'm not sure if this is true for everybody, but during my process, I feel like a lot of it's very malleable. I change as much as I can as I go, and sometimes I just listen to a gut impulsive instinct and follow it. I'm sure there are people who don't do that. They want to make sure the sketch is perfect and then everything else is perfect. If you paint or draw or even sculpt, if you do anything creative, let me know in the comment section down below how your process works. Is it something that you have carefully laid out and then you follow everything in a regimented manner and that's the process that works for you? Or are you more kind of loosey-goosey, do you just go with the flow? Let me know in the comment section down below and kind of explain why you work that way and how it works for you. I'm really curious. I actually really want to know. The great thing about social media platforms is that exchange of ideas and learning different things about something you're passionate about and seeing how other people in the same field or who have the same passions work and their opinions on it. At this point, I'm adding in white ink to help bring out some lighter areas, just to add some more shading elements. There was also a happy accident that happened in this stage. I laid some more white into those eyes, but the areas around had not completely dried yet, so it bled a tiny bit. I decided to go with it because it gave an effect of the eyes being open and creepy and glowing. It's all about those horror aesthetics, y'all. I also have this plan of emulating frost or ice kind of encroaching in on this little dome area that she's in. I also extended that from the eyes later as well. Sometimes mistakes can be happy little accidents. At this point, I am using a black marker with a fine tip to further define lines and to deepen and darken up certain areas. I decided to use a black marker on the entire outside of that little dome dealy to add more contrast, which it goes away later, but at this point there's more contrast. This black marker I'm using for the background is a different one than what I was using for the lines. It is thicker and it is a brush tip. The other one is tiny and is not a brush tip. It's just pointy. At this point, I also come back in with that blue to pull it back into certain areas. Now I'm using a white paint marker to pull in attempts at an icy effect. This is probably the most time-consuming part of this piece. It could also be considered unnecessary busy work, but I really wanted to try to get some texture going. I also wanted to attempt to do a frozen or ice effect, because honestly, I've never really done it before. And what's the point of doing Inktober if you're not going to try to do new stuff, am I right? There is a very black, very wet corner in the upper right section of the hair. I decided to let it dry naturally and to not touch it as much as humanly possible. I did not want to use the hairdryer on that specific one because it was just going to make it go every which way and ruin the shape that I already had set up. The paper I'm using for this project is a thicker paper. It is from the Strathmore 400 series. It's just a watercolor paper. It's one of the sturdier ones. It is one of those 22 by 30 big sheets that they have at certain art stores. This specific one was from Michael's. When I'm not feeling super lazy, I will get these larger pieces of paper and cut them down. They're cheaper, so it's a good way to go about that. I'm also using the rougher side of the paper, the one with more tooth. I like using that side because it can take more abuse. I'm not gonna lie, I'm pretty hard on paper when I am using watercolor or ink, or really just doing anything. I need thick, sturdy paper because I'm destructive. AF. Sorry you had to hear my little ramble about the paper that I am using. I really love paper, and I think that having the right paper for a project is a pretty integral part of the process. Having the wrong paper can mess things up really easily and quickly. I also decided to talk about the paper because I'm basically just repeating the same steps with that white marker over and over again. Doing small stipples, drawing small lines. Time-consuming process. It's very relaxing though. Sometimes these time-consuming, repetitive little pattern making is just really calming. I think it's because you can kind of turn your brain off a little bit more. Overall, by the end of this project, I am fairly happy with how it turned out. There are probably quite a few things I would do differently. I would not have laid in the black so heavy in that background, knowing I was putting that white over it, because there's a harsh distinction between that and the blue section that she's in. I think leaving more of the blue or mixing the black in with the blue a little bit more would have possibly looked better. There are also some things about the face I would change. I would probably try to continue the arms out and have it be more of kind of a free-falling position. Overall, still happy with it. I could see stuff I would change, but I feel like that's true for any artist. No matter how happy you are with a piece, you'll see stuff that looks wrong to you or that you would do differently if you did it again. Maybe that's just me. I have a feeling it's all of us, though. Well, this project here is almost done. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy day or night to watch this video and listen to me ramble about art stuff. I've been really enjoying Inktober so far, and I'm super excited to do my next project. If you liked this video, please hit that like button. If you have any comments, questions, feelings, concerns, please let me know in that comment section down below. If you want to see more videos like this, please feel free to hit that subscribe button. Once again, thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Hopefully I will hear from you guys soon. Bye!